What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the LA Soccer Hub Show. Man, it was a crazy, crazy day yesterday. El Trafico, the first one of the year. LAFC versus LA Galaxy. You know there was going to be fireworks. You know there was going to be goals, but we weren't sure how many Galaxy fans were going to show up, how the game was going to end because LAFC hadn't won there just yet. A lot of things going on that happened yesterday, but it was exciting. I think the last 10 minutes, everybody felt anxious. They didn't know what was going to happen there. But yeah, man, this game always lives up to the hype. There we go. I was trying to find the word. Always lives up to the hype. Here with me once again is Justin. Justin, how you doing?
Doing well, man. Trying to connect my AirPods right now. I don't know why it says they're connected. They're not. But anyway,
You sound
um,
amazing. You sound amazing. Don't worry about that. The
uh,
audio's
eh,
good.
no, yeah. Anyway, yeah, incredible game as always. As you say, it lives up to the hype. It's the most hyped game in MLS every single week or every single year. I mean, and it proves it. Why? Because there's always going to be goals. It's always going to be drama. The ending is always going to be, drama filled with a goal in the game, whether it be for a winner or an equalizer. It's just drama, and we got that once again on Sunday.
Yeah. Look, we may be biased, but this is clearly the best rivalry in MLS. Just everything about the culture. Look, I did some tailgating interviews, hung out with some fans. I mean, just seeing that and living, experiencing that and interviewing the fans, it's cool. Look, it was just seeing how people prepared for the game, right? You know, there's some people that got as early as 9 a.m. for a 2 o'clock game. They're there since 9 a.m. Some of those guys, prep the meat. One guy told me 24 hours ahead, he prepped the meat, prepped the chicken 24 hours ahead because he knew he was coming to this game. He knew he was going to tailgate. One guy he said he brought like 60 people supposedly to the game,
What is going on?
which I kind of find it hard to believe. But look, I'm gonna just go with what he said. But all that, just this game is more than just a game on the field. It's the experience. It's everything that happens beforehand with the fans and the connections and everything like that. Just people, how they prepare their micheladas, how they prepare. I had a Mexican hot dog, and then I had some Honduran food to try out there, and it was just cool, man. And that's what it is, and that's the culture that we have here in LA. It's very diverse. It's not just Mexicans, got Salvadorians, people from Guatemala, Honduras, like I said, people from Costa Rica and everything, and I think that's the beauty of this game. That's the beauty of everything. How you mix all these cultures and everything, and everybody gets to enjoy this game. Did you partake in any of the pregame festivities, any of the tailgate, Justin?
No, not really. Unfortunately, I got there 2 hour and a half, 2 hours before the game. I just, got my media pass, went inside, and uh, you know, did all the media duties ahead of the game, preparing for kickoff. But no, I walked around a little bit. I tried to soak up the atmosphere as much as I could. 3252 were in there before the gates, could even open, like an hour before gates were even open to media. So they were, that's how much of a gap they wanted to leave there. And then, the Galaxy fans filled in a little bit later, but they did show up more than I expected. It's just, they weren't necessarily the loud ones, but there were a good amount of fans in white there.
Yeah. You make a good point. It wasn't the supporters that showed up, right? Obviously, there was you. Look, we talked about this week. We expected it to feel kind of like an LAFC home game. To me, it did. To me, it did, especially when Carlos Vela got that second goal, got that PK. They were chanting his name after that PK, and also LAF the 3252 did the jump for LAFC football club chant. That one, man, that's been posted all over social media. We posted over obviously on LA Soccer Hub as well. So that, I mean, when you do something like that, it's just insane. And obviously Galaxy is going through whatever they're going through with the front office, but this to me was all expected to happen, and it kind of turned out the way it did. Now I know I'm seeing some Galaxy fans don't believe it went the way it did, but I'm like, look, videos doesn't lie. I was there. I got to see it. And look, sometimes when this happens, hopefully they can get a culture change within the organization, because just walking around there, just certain interactions that I have with certain people, everybody in the Galaxy organization is feeling the pressure of this so far, this poor season, the way they've been playing. It's not just the coaches, it's not just the players, it's everybody. And that was my experience yesterday. And you can feel it. That to me was just kind of like the more eye-opening thing, how much of, you know, this bad season so far. Look, things can turn around, but this season is applying a lot of pressure to everybody involved in the organization.
Yeah, you saw it pregame with Greg Vanny's comments in his interview. You saw it postgame with Chicharito's comments in his interview. They're feeling the pressure, and they're fighting back a little bit, as you would want to see as a Galaxy fan. You want to see that passion from your coach and your captain, because if you don't see that passion, maybe it means they don't care enough. So while maybe some of those comments might be a little bit unfounded, a little bit out there, at least it shows the passion for them. It shows that they care and they have belief in their team that they can turn it around. And they played pretty well on the pitch, on Sunday, and I think that better than a lot of fans expected, better than most expected. I think could have gotten the draw or even the win potentially in that game if it had gone a couple different ways. But I think that if you're a Galaxy fan, you're happy with the performance, but maybe you're a little bit more focused on the off the field issues and how you were run off of your own stadium by your biggest rivals fans, and the front office doesn't really care.
Yeah, look, to your point, Galaxy played, I would say, almost better than LAFC, but they just didn't get the win, right? The result, to me, in the first half, they were the better team. They were the better team. I think what was it, 1-1 at half. Tyler Boyd got that 30-yard rocket, which is insane. For the most part, they played better. I think it was just certain they shot themselves in the foot, like that first goal from Carlos Vela. I forgot who was the defender that left them wide open. I think it was maybe Mavinga. I could be wrong.
Yeah,
but he was just wide open, and you don't leave Carlos Vela that wide open, because especially when he has an opportunity to shoot with his left foot. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe how wide open he was. But look, he puts in the back of the net. Galaxy get it back. But to me, I don't know, that first half, LAFC wasn't. I don't think they. I think even Steve Cherundolo said it, that they didn't play good at all throughout the game. But yeah, like, to me, did you see the summer thing? Like, how, I guess, I don't know if they were struggling or what it was, but they weren't playing good in that first half.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially in that first 20 minutes, but the entire first half, it to me was, first of all, Galaxy came out with the energy and the motivation that LAC expected that they're going to get punched in the mouth, and they just got to withstand that for the first 10 minutes. But then LAFC couldn't get out. They couldn't play out. They were getting pinned in, and then they were trying to press high and getting played in behind. I think Ricky Puig was taking huge advantage for the first 25 minutes
He
or
was
so.
amazing.
He was playing great football because Ilie Sanchez was stepping way too high as LAFC's deepest lying midfielder. If he's going to man mark Ricky Puig in Galaxy's half, and then Puig either flicks it behind him or floats into the space behind him, and yeah, there was just a lot of space between the LAFC midfield three and their back four, which allowed Galaxy to get in those spaces, Ricky Puig to run at the back four, and that was extremely dangerous. In the second half, you saw the LAFC compact to the midfield a little bit so that it was harder to play through, try to force them to go out to the wings. But it was controlled possession from Galaxy. I think that, in those first 20 minutes, you saw them creating chances with that possession, and then maybe less or so throughout the rest of the game, but still more so than maybe other teams have against LAFC this season, because it hasn't, there have been times where LAFC have been sitting back and defending, but the other team hasn't been able to create chances, whereas Galaxy were able to do so in those first 20, 25 minutes, and then intermittently as well throughout the game.
Yeah, I to me, that's when Galaxy, and when Ricky's doing what he's doing, right? And to me, he's when he's going off like that, he's so hard to mark. Doesn't matter who you are, he just moves around. He's super shifty, right? He's super shifty, and his ball control is just elite. It's just elite, and his passing is amazing. I was just surprised that they weren't able to convert on a couple more chances with Ricky Puig. I know in the second half he hit the crossbar. He ended up hitting that crossbar, and I think the post. Yeah, the side post, and I thought that was gonna go in, and I was like, oh dang. It didn't, but I was surprised he wasn't able to get a couple more opportunities to do that, because what they were doing to me when they control the ball, they're the most they're the best Galaxy version that we can see. But unfortunately, it just didn't go the way sometimes. And LFC did a good job towards the second half, even when they sat back, absorbing that pressure. Because look, those last 10 minutes were crazy. They were crazy, and we didn't know what was going to happen. But before we get into that, let's talk a little bit about Carlos Vela and his performance. Because was it the last game? I think he also got a brace last game.
He sure did.
If I'm correct. So now 4 goals in 2 games. Now he's starting to get into a flow.
And an assist.
And an assist. Now he's starting to get into a flow. Which is crazy, right? Bouanga has been going off and doing like that. Vela has been, trying to find his rhythm. 4 goals and an assist in 2 games. In a game which LAFC struggled and did not play well. Let's talk a little bit about Carlos Vela and what you like and what you saw from him.
No, you've absolutely nailed it. Of course, Gio. I mean, I wrote about this in my post-game article, because I think that if Vela is firing like this, it's impossible to beat LAFC nearly, because Vela said 2 weeks ago, right? I'm not at my best. I'm not playing well, and I want to improve, and I'm working hard to improve. And I think that he's starting to find that form. I mean, you can't deny 5 goal contributions in 2 games. And it's when, the thing is to me is that, well, LAFC normally win the game because they're the better side, right? As a team, as a cohesive unit, as a system, they outplay their opponents. And that's generally how they win the game. But if that doesn't happen, Denny Bouanga will go and win you the game with a hat trick, like he did in Vancouver when they weren't playing necessarily their best game. Well, if Denny Bouanga's not on and he's, a little bit disconnected from the team and they're still not playing well, like you saw against Galaxy, well, you have Carlos Vela, one of the best players who produced probably the best season in MLS history in 2019, to go and win you a game. So it's just, if one tactic doesn't work, you have a player to go win it. If that player doesn't go win it, you have another superstar. It's just, there's so many different ways for LAFC to win games at this point. And so, as you say, even if it wasn't their best performance, which it obviously wasn't, they're still going to find a way to win the game because they have Carlos Vela.
Yeah, and look, it's just crazy to say. To me, I was very surprised that Bouanga didn't have a good game. That was kind of, it's kind of weird, right? It's kind of weird because he's just been going off, and look, I was expecting him to get a goal. He did have a couple opportunities. I think he had a pass also to Mahala. Mahala wasn't able to get to it, I believe, in the first half. Second half. But yeah, it was interesting to see Bouanga not getting his rhythm, but Vela, be able to have a solid game. And look, Vela always shows up for El Trafico. Vela always shows up when it comes to the big games. Back in the Zlatan days, obviously Chicharito and him have more of a friendly rivalry or a friendship, obviously, which is, I don't know. I like it that they like to be teams, but I don't like that they're that friendly in this rivalry. I don't know if I'm saying too much. Look, I'm a Mexico supporter.
I think they're not friends on. They're not friends on the pitch, right? They're friends off the pitch.
No, but it's a little too friendly. It's a little too friendly, because there are other examples like, yeah, we're friends, and but they're always, look, you always want, I'm not saying they gotta hate each other, but it's just like, there's not that, like, I guess the Zlatan Carlos Vela was just so head on that this one's a little, it just seems that we're not. And also, look, also Chicharito hasn't been at his best form, his injury and all these different things. Look, these games always live up to the hype, but I guess I'm saying I wish there was a little bit more back and forth.
No, it could be, they could build that up more, but right now it's just Carlos Vela has been dominating the rivalry. I mean, he has the most goals against a single opponent from any player since LAFC entered the league, with 12 in 12 games against Galaxy. So it's just hard to compete with those numbers. And Zlatan, had a couple major moments, but do you really remember a Chicharito moment that in El Trafico that was like Vela or Zlatan have produced?
All I remember is Chicharito. I think the U.S. Open Cup. I think he had a couple goals, a couple a couple exciting goals that were pretty good. I think that was the U.S. Open Cup. I think that's the last time. But look, Chicharito had an opportunity to potentially, was it tie the game, or I don't know if.
I think
it was to tie the game.
It was just a minute
And
after Ricky Pooch had banged it off of the post, as you were talking
yeah.
about earlier, and then he slipped it through right past Aaron Long. Beautiful through ball between the
Mhm.
center backs, and put Chicharito in 1v1 with John McCarthy. And I thought Chicharito had skied it live, but I looked at the
I
replay.
thought
John
he
McCarthy
skied
made
it
an
too.
incredible save from John McCarthy, closing the space, strong right hand out to the side, and to put it over the bar. Yeah, I thought he skied it, but another incredible save from John McCarthy, who actually made a couple of them. He made another one on Caligari in stoppage time. That was just unbelievable to me. Wonder save that basically won the game there.
Yeah, look, just on that point, look, whether Chicharito is not 100% in his full form, to me, watching his whole career, like a year ago, whatever, if he was fully fit, that goal's in the back of the net. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like he's coming back to his injury. Look, he played all 90 minutes, but at times to me he looked a bit slow, a little bit sluggish. Preston Judd was supposed to come in for him, and then Greg Vanny pulled him back when Galaxy got the second goal. But I think that's what I'm saying. It's like those goals and those moments. He's had some moments, but it's like those magical moments. Are like, oh, I remember Vela scored that goal. I remember
Mm-hmm.
Chicharito, and like those certain moments haven't just been there with Chicharito. But look, that's what just happens. The game ended the way it did. But let's talk about those, because those last 10 minutes, Justin, were thrilling, were exciting.
Mm-hmm.
You had to feel anxious. You had to feel nervous. You don't know what was going to happen. Those last 10 minutes were insane. Let's talk about those last 10 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, about 15 minutes before the end of the game, if you're including those 8 minutes of stoppage time, Steve made the change to bring in Palencia for Cifuentes and switch to the back five. A very pragmatic defensive change, to just put more defensive bodies on the field. And that's something we would never see from Bob Bradley, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Steve Cherundolo makes sure that he's going to win the game at Dignity Health Sports Park. And I think that made a huge difference, because that is the time that we see often in these games between LAFC and LA Galaxy, especially in Carson, where Galaxy are able to find that late equalizer or winner to make sure that LAFC hadn't won at DHSP. But now Steve makes the pragmatic change. They have Ryan Hollingshead come in as that elbow back and form that back three, and it just congest the space, excuse me. And so that there's no space to play through. As I mentioned, that one chance they got from Caligari, I think in the 93rd minute, it fell to him. It was a little bit of a deflection. He snapshot on goal. And so that was the biggest chance. You expected them to get one chance. That came. McCarthy made an unbelievable save.
No, he did. And talking about that, you talk about the changes. Look, to me, that's the biggest difference in Steve Sherrill versus, like you mentioned, Bob Bradley and Steve Sherrill, but also Steve Sherrill and Greg Vanny. Steve Sherrill was willing to not start Vela and willing to sub out Vela, which we've seen in El Trafico in the playoff last season, 2022. He took out Vela, I think, in the 70th, 80th minute, and brought in Mahala in a big game. With Greg Vanny, I don't think he doesn't believe on Jovic that much, which we've seen. Look, he doesn't believe with Jovic, Preston Judd. He's not willing to take out a Chicharito when he's not performing. He did have that, I think, that assist on that second goal. He did have a couple big moments, but to me, he just didn't look good. I think that's the difference. I think moving forward, I was talking with a couple Galaxy reporters, and I was almost like, to me, it would almost make sense. Why not bring Chicharito off the bench? Like, why not bring Chicharito off the bench, and you give Judd and Jovic those minutes, and Chicharito can finish that. But look, I just don't think Greg Vanny's sees that, because he has to win all these games and everything like that. But like Cherundolo, we talked to him afterwards. Players are buying what he's selling, regardless if you're starting or you're coming off the bench, or you're not playing a couple games or whatever. It doesn't matter, right? And I think with Greg Vanny, he hasn't built that relationship with players. I don't know. Look, I don't know this to be true, but I just feel like Jovic doesn't have that same belief from Greg Vanny that he could be that type of striker for him, like Chicharito is. But to me, he is. He's just proven goal scorer. Preston Judd has looked good. He's looked threatened. He's a big physical body. But I think when you're players and there's doubt and you're losing and you don't trust those players, certain key moments like a big game like El Trafico, you can't, you're not going to trust a Judd over Chicharito because you haven't put him in those moments. And that's the clear difference between these two coaching staff. And you see on one side LSC is rolling through, on the other side LA Galaxy is going through it really bad.
Yeah, I think when it comes to Greg Vanney's pragmatism, for me, I mean, I've beaten this drum since last season, midway through. It doesn't suit LA Galaxy to play a 4-3-3 system. They should be playing a 3-5-2 system. They
Yeah,
have
exactly.
Joveljic and Chicharito. You play them in a front two. You have attacking fullbacks. You don't have. It would benefit Ricky Puig in the midfield to have more numbers there. You have a back three. It just everything suits a 3-5-2 system, and I think Greg Vanney, I for some reason is so stingent in his inability to change from that 4-3-3 system. And if he would have changed midway through last season and had this entire offseason to work that system and build it with his team, I think they would have started this season rather well. But instead, they continue to stick with a system that doesn't suit the players that they have. They sold Araujo, who was a true fullback, and now it just doesn't work even more. It's a problem, and I think that as long as he continues to stick with this, it's going to become a problem. Although obviously, Galaxy did play better yesterday, but yeah, I just that's the pragmatism for me, that Greg Vanney is so stuck in a system where it's not productive, and so if you can't change your mind like that, that to me is worrisome, and you got to be more pragmatic. That's what Bob Bradley did. He wouldn't change from that 4-3-3. Steve Cherundolo has no problem.
Yeah, and then look, that to me, that's the difference in just the coaching staff, and then just how just being around this game and seeing different coaches. It's like you see what coaches are a little bit more elite than others, understand certain things a little bit more, and willing to change things. Right, you have to adjust to what you have. Right, obviously Cherundolo has an insane talent, but he's had to build that relationship on a first year coach last season. Hey, trust what I'm going to do, and this is going to work. He did that, and in a year he had to do that super quick. But it was also, to me, Steve Cherundolo's emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is so underrated. It's just so underrated. I don't think people really realize that and see that, because he tries to be very coy, not true. We know him a little bit because we the interactions we have, the press conferences. But that man is so smart, and he just, the way he does things, it's very impressive. He doesn't like to talk about himself, but he's a very, very talented man.
Couldn't agree with you more. And I think, you say from those interactions, just one thing that stuck out to me from yesterday's press conference is, I can't remember, one of the reporters asked him, how do you feel? Like, what are the emotions here?
He was trying to get emotions out of him. And he's like, go ahead.
Yeah. He just said, I know you want to get emotions. I know that that's the answer that you want, but that's not how I operate as a coach. I'm focused as an ex-player, as a coach, that I didn't like the performance from my team. And then he added, my kids will get that emotion from me. You guys won't. And that shows to me that he has two sides to himself. He makes sure that he knows when to bring that emotion out in his life with his family when it matters. But when it comes to his job and getting things done and succeeding in his career, he's not emotional. He's going to make the right decisions.
He's locked in. Yeah. The way I took it is he's locked in. Like, he's locked in. This is what it is. This is what I'm about. Like, this is that. He's already like, I didn't like how they played. We got the win. It's just that's what I'm saying.
No, it's just his emotional intelligence, as you said. He knows how to, code switch or whatever you want to call it into different situations. He knows how to deal with it, and it's exactly what you said. Emotional intelligence. I think it's a great point you brought up, Gio.
Let's talk about this. Yesterday, 32-52, right here. I don't know if you guys can hear this. Taking over. This was insane. This was, to me, insane. We were watching this across. To me, it was just crazy. Seeing this, LAFC 32-52.
LAFC fans took over LA Galaxy's home stadium.
I know a lot of people, the Galaxy side don't believe that, but look, man, when they're able to do this at Dignity Hill Sports Park, which I think we expected this, What were your thoughts when you saw this, Justin?
I mean, I expected it, but at the same time, it blows your mind to see it in person, to go to a supposed away stadium.
LAFC fans took over LA Galaxy's home stadium.
To see the fans taking over like that is, yeah, it really is incredible, because they were there 2 hours before kickoff, genuinely, with those same exact numbers, and the rest of the stadium was completely empty, and they were already singing. So I think it's just a testament to what LAFC has built as an organization and what LAFC 3252 has built as a fan supporters group, because I don't think that there's anything like it in the United States. And I think that it genuinely competes with, some of the top supporters groups around the world, with the type of passion and away fans that they bring all over the place. And, I can't, one of the players, I don't know if it was Ilya or Denny, somebody said, it's not just at LA Galaxy. At every away game, it feels similar to that. It feels like a home game, because there are a lot of stadiums, sad to say, in MLS where the atmosphere is not very good. And so if you do bring some away fans, they will be heard.
Yeah, you're gonna feel that energy. To me, this was very clear when LAFC won the championship last year. LAFC owns Los Angeles when it comes to soccer, football, MLS. They recruit a lot better. They got Denny Boanga, Diego Rossi, Eduardo Tuesta, Mahala. Those are just some names. The most recent biggest superstars, Chiellini and Gareth Bale, all signed with LAFC. LAFC has been able to attract those type of players. Also, players like Ilya Sanchez and Aaron Long, who are on the verge of potentially signing with the LA Galaxy, have chosen LAFC, right? And now you also have the fan base, 3252, that will travel and is so passionate and feels so empowered by this club, and listens on the front office, listens to what they got going on. And they built this culture. So to me, it's clear LAFC owns Los Angeles. And am I missing something else, Justin, that LAFC hasn't done since they've started? And they're also on the verge of going to a CCL final. Am I missing something? I don't know. I may be missing something, Justin. You tell me, because I know a lot of people don't want to hear that, but that's the truth. I live in LA. We both live in LA. We see it. And for those people that don't live in LA, don't want to see it, it's unfortunate, but that is the truth.
Yeah, absolutely. They've completely overrun this city, about to go to their second Champions League final, potentially, as you just said. They've won 3 trophies in those 5 years. If you count Western Conference, and Galaxy have won none. Galaxy are on the decline. LAFC are going up and up and up, and the trend just is going to continue that way unless something drastic changes on the Galaxy side of things, because LAFC are just going to continue to rise. Galaxy are going to, they've lost the city, but it's going to become to a point of no repair if they don't change things very, very quickly.
Yeah, a lot of things is going to have to happen. Look, first things, you got to get rid of Chris Klein if that ever happens, because I've said this before. I don't see the Galaxy being successful. I said this last week. If Galaxy loses game, look, I know you have a 80-90% chance of making the MLS playoffs, right? I'm exaggerating here, but I just can't see the Galaxy doing anything this season. Making the playoffs seriously, maybe U.S. Open Cup is the route they can go through, but even that's going to be tough. I think just the way they started has been so bad, and not having the disconnect and not being connected with your fans, which to me makes no sense. It's insane. And like I said earlier, everybody's feeling the pressure. But I want to get your thoughts. I want to listen to this. Let's listen to what Chicharito had to say after the game, because I thought this was insane. It was just I don't know why he said these comments, but we're going to listen to what he said yesterday. And here, give me a second. Here it is.
This club has kind of struggled to get results.
I said if you considered them like one of the best teams of the league. I didn't say they were the best one. Just to clear the context, okay? Because you see, that's why sometimes I didn't say that. Sorry?
In the table, they're one of the best teams.
In your opinion, yeah. It's the way that it ends, man. It's 34 games. We have the same narrative in my last 2 years, and then in the end we qualified in playoffs. We were the fourth seed, and then they were even more scared that they were going to fight against us if we in the past beat Nashville, right? They prefer Nashville than us. So man, they are doing a very good job. They're doing a great things, but for us, yeah, it's a result job over here, and we depend on that. And unfortunately, we haven't delivered. But the bright side is just the big.
If he said a lot of things, he said if he doesn't consider LAFC to be one of the best teams, he's saying that LAFC was scared to play Galaxy in the playoffs. I don't know. I know he might have been heated of the moment, but also the reporter asking the questions. I know him. That's Alex Ruiz. He covers Galaxy, does amazing. He backs the Galaxy. By no means was he trying to instigate or anything like. Alex is all about the Galaxy. Let me put that out there. He's all about that, and he's very nice and respectful, and he doesn't go out at players. I think Chicha just took this the wrong way because I've had some interactions with him, and sometimes like all he was saying, he's like, I guess he was referring to something that Chicharito had said, probably previous in the conference or something like that. And then Alex goes, at the top of the table, he's just referring off the top of the table. He's like, that's essentially saying that's your opinion,
right?
When it's kind of a fact, when it is a fact,
right? No, you've nailed it. I mean, look, I don't think he's coming at Alex or anything like that. I think he's just clarifying his, stance. And I think, as I was saying earlier, it shows the passion, and that's good for, a Galaxy captain to show the passion. But I think that, you got to stick a little bit with the facts as well, because as you say, when Alex says, they're top of the table, you don't say, well, in your opinion, no, they really are. You're sitting near the top of the table. It's not an opinion. And then he goes on to say, well, they didn't want to face. I agree with him, actually, what he's saying about the narrative thing. And that's what Vanny touched on as well when in his, infamous comments before the game, because that is a good point. That is the narrative that, it starts off badly, but it is a long season and it matters where you finish. And they did finish in fourth place last season, which isn't terrible. But I do think that an expectation of playoffs is a very low bar to set, especially now that you say so many teams get in.
Well, when you have Chicharito, you have Ricky Puig. Those are big names. Not look, we're talking MLS. Not everybody has those big names. Let's go to St. Louis, right? I don't know any other players. I'm gonna be honest. I'm not trying to be rude.
Okay,
I'm not trying to be disrespectful. But
I think you're a little bit off on
the
that
point
one.
I'm trying to say, Chicharito is a name known around the world. Ricky Puig is a player known around the world. St. Louis doesn't have a player that's known around the world. That is my point. And when you have stars like that and saying that the playoffs, you can make the playoffs, and you set the bar and all these different things, setting that bar that low is just like, come on.
Yeah, I mean, I would say St. Louis have nailed João Klaus and Edward Lovin as their DP signings. They're incredible players. Just because they're not big names,
they're not
I don't know.
they're not world.
Well, Chicharito's a big name because he had a career in Europe and now he's at the end of his career, right? Like, I don't know if that a name means that they're a better player. I would say João Klaus is a better player than Chicharito, and I would argue, and Edward Lovin's a better player than Ricky Puig at the moment. Ricky Puig is a more talented player, I would say, but he's a lot younger. But point being that, yes, exactly, it's a low bar. And Chicharito goes on to say that, they didn't want to face us in the playoffs. They were scared of us over Nashville. I can promise you that wasn't true. LAFC fans wanted to face Galaxy in the playoffs over Nashville. Nashville are a very defensive team that are solid with the MVP from last season. So I think that they were a very formidable force. But yeah, I think that, as we said, he shows the passion. He maybe is a little bit right on his point of the narrative being a little bit negative, whereas, they still have the ability to turn it around. Whether they will actually do that is another question to be seen. Yeah.
Look, let me say, I do know Klaus, the Brazilian that was scoring those goals, but outside of that, I don't know anybody else in that St. Louis team. So
Edward Lovin is the best. Edward Lovin is the best box-to-box midfielder in the league.
Well, there you go. See, that's why we have you on. So that, like, it was just that my point, that is just like when you can attract these players, you got to be able to do more. You got to be able to do more and figure certain things out like that. But look, that's just the way this is with the Galaxy. are going, and it's just it's very interesting to see how this is going to play out, because I just don't see it ending up well. I see LFC rolling. Look, they've played. How many games that they played? They had Champions League. They have a lot of. LFC should have been tired going into this game. Should be exhausted. Maybe they were. That was hot. They're wearing black out in the sun. Maybe they looked, but the Galaxy had opportunities. It had fresher legs.
Yeah.
You know, LAFC hasn't played those games, and just with everything going on, what we spoke about today, I just don't see it. And having a successful season for the Galaxy, I don't know what that is. I just don't see it. I see LAFC continuing to roll high, and now we have, what was it, the CONCACAF Champions League coming up, the semifinals against Philadelphia. They're going to travel, I think, to Philly first and then come back here. Let's talk about a little bit of what we can see moving forward with LAFC, because this was a big game. This always is a big game. But moving forward, LAFC could potentially, if they get things done with Philadelphia, which is not going to be an easy game, go on to another CCL final.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's great for LAFC, right? Because they've played, again, 5 and 15 days, which is just a ridiculous amount of games to play in such a short amount of time. And they had just followed that up with, I think 5 and 16 days before that. So it was just a really congested schedule. They now get a full week break ahead of Nashville next weekend. Speaking of Nashville, and so they go to Nashville, they'll play there, and then yes, midweek after that they will go to play Philadelphia. So a couple road games before then heading back home for a small homestand as well. So it's going to be a couple really big games, and I think that the rest ahead of Nashville and Philadelphia is going to be really, really big, because you saw Chiellini was not in the 18, Tillman was not in the 18. You need these players back and fit to make sure that that depth is on par with what you expect it to be, which is by far the best in the league, right? So I think that the rest will be really helpful. I think it'll be interesting to see the lineup that Steve Cherundolo puts out against Nashville, because if it's a rotated squad, we'll know he's prioritizing Philadelphia. And
Philly's going to be so tough.
And if it's not a extremely tough. And if it's not a rotated squad, I think, you're probably still going to see a very strong lineup against Philly. So maybe it means everybody's very fit and healthy, and he feels confident, well, we got that week's rest. We can just keep playing our first team for, multiple games in a row, like has been the case. So it's going to be really good. And yeah, LAFC are on a run like I don't know if we've ever seen an MLS in multiple competitions to start this season. So if they can keep this run up for as long as possible, it'll be incredibly entertaining to watch.
Yeah, well, we'll have to see. Yeah, that big game this upcoming Saturday, and that rotations would be very interesting to see what they do. But look, man, we covered a lot. The game was exciting. Like I said, these games always live up to the hype. Everything from the tailgates to the game to the end. It has everything. The comments, the quotes, everything, emotions. This is why we love El Trafico. This is why we love watching this game. This is why we love watching this rivalry. It always brings the extra sauce. In Spanish, we say sazon, like that flavor. But yeah, man, I love this rivalry. I love this matchup. But that's going to wrap things up for my man, Justin. This is Gio.